If you thought the election from hell was over, you'd better think again. Wisconsin is targeting Thursday to start recounting all its ballots after Green Party candidate Jill Stein made the formal request. Stein spent the holiday weekend collecting money for the effort, millions more than she raised for her own campaign for president.
I think it's only natural and it's good for Americans to be reassured that our votes are counted.
Stein's push, now supported by the Clinton campaign, did have a bit of a setback today when Wisconsin denied her request to recount every vote by hand. But she did manage to file recount requests in more than 100 precincts in Pennsylvania, where at least 3 voters in each region have to formally make the request. Stein is also hoping to get a recount in Michigan. Of course, Trump and his team are fighting back. His former campaign manager, now key advisor Kellyanne Conway, released a statement to Bloomberg, which read, "What a pack of sore losers." After asking Mr. Trump and his team 1,000,000 times on the trail, will he accept the election results? Turns out that Team Hillary and their new BFF Jill Stein can't accept reality. Trump released a slew of tweets on the subject as well, claiming voter fraud in several states, including New Hampshire, and saying he, quote, won the popular vote if you deduct the millions of people who voted illegally. Of course, there's no proof right now of any wide-scale hacking or fraud or illegal voting on either side, but the drama does not end there. Trump met with retired General David Petraeus today. Tomorrow it's Senator Bob Corker in round 2 with Mitt Romney, all considered top contenders for the Secretary of State spot. But Romney has been the cause of a lot of infighting among the Trump staffers. And once again, Conway is speaking out this time about the blowback against the potential Romney nomination.
I'm all for party unity, but I'm not sure that we have to pay for that with the Secretary of State. It's just the backlash from the grassroots. I'm hearing from people who say, hey, my parents died penniless, but I gave $216 to Donald Trump's campaign, and I would feel betrayed.
There are reports that Trump is, quote, irritated with Conway for publicly speaking out like this. Joining me now are former Massachusetts State Treasurer Shannon O'Brien is a Clinton supporter. Good to see you, Shannon. And Joe Malone is a Trump supporter. Joe, good to see you. Let's start with the recount thing. Isn't the Clinton campaign doing exactly what they accused the Trump campaign of threatening to do before Election Day? It is the same thing, right?
I think they've been very clear that they've said that Donald Trump, at least at this point in time, has won the election. They didn't do this. This was Jill Stein. I think
why did they sign on to it? Why don't they let her do it by herself?
Let me tell you, if I were in her shoes, I would not want Jill Stein to be running amok managing something like this. I think that this is too much tied in Hillary Clinton's reputation, and I think that she needs to. This is definitely not the Clinton campaign's doing, and this is Jill Stein, but they're not going to let her run off with this.
Now, since you're a big believer in democracy, I'm sure you support the recount, correct?
Well, here's my point. This gives Donald Trump a perfect opportunity to raise his level higher and be more presidential. Now, he didn't do it at first. His first reaction was to tweet.
How about his second and third reaction?
So you know what, though? We went from the Democrats protesting in the streets to now they want to recount. And as you say, ironically, it was the Democrats and Hillary Clinton who said, are you going to accept this decision of the people? It looks awful.
But how about Conway? Getting back to Kellyanne Conway, who's been the face of the administration so far, how about the on-again, off-again, now potentially on-again prosecution of Hillary Clinton? She says on CNN that maybe the prosecution will happen, and she appears to tie it to whether or not Clinton proceeds with the recount. Is that not low rent?
That's her talking. That's not Donald Trump talking. Can we agree to that?
Well, let's talk about Trump, what he is talking for a minute. Can you tell me where the millions of illegal voters were that he described in New Hampshire, Virginia, and California? How does he know that there are millions of illegal voters?
Not sure, but there are a lot of citizens.
Not sure, no idea.
Wait a minute now. There are a lot of citizens of New Hampshire because they have same-day registration. It certainly opens up the potential for lots of abuse and lots of
but there's no evidence of any
played.
Abuse. Is that correct?
Well, we don't know yet. Just as with Hillary and Jill Stein, they're saying we don't know what we're going to find. But isn't it ridiculous that it started at all? We can blame Jill Stein, but then we can blame Hillary's lawyers.
Are you worried about at the end of this thing? The likelihood, I assume you agree, is pretty good that Donald Trump is still going to be president at the end of these recounts, president-elect. The divisions are so pathetically deep in this country. Don't you worry that they get even deeper with this sore loser thing, as Kellyanne Conway put it?
I think that they are going to have to make sure that Donald Trump is a lot more presidential, and tweeting and talking about completely baseless statements about 3 million, illegal votes being cast.
Your candidate's the one who's challenging the result,
No.
obviously.
The fact is, Hillary Clinton has been very modulated in her responses, as have her spokesperson. They have continued to say that he has won the election. But I do think that there was enough evidence, whether it was Russians hacking into Democratic email accounts.
No evidence of that either.
Whether
Democratic emails.
Democratic
yes.
emails.
No evidence of them hacking into voting machines. Zero.
No evidence yet. But there were conversations, and national security experts thought that, at least in Illinois, that it was attempted, and they think it was by Russians.
So let's talk about the Secretary of State thing. He met with David Petraeus today. To me, in no disrespect to General Petraeus, it's almost laughable. Hillary Clinton should be locked up, at least during the campaign, for unintentionally mishandling classified material. This guy intentionally mishandles classified material and pleads guilty to a misdemeanor, and he's going to be the next Secretary of State?
So Donald Trump would say he paid a price. He paid a severe price. He's now someone who can put that in his rearview mirror, and Trump wants to talk about him, but possibly...
Do you really believe that, or are you just saying that?
No, I believe that,
Okay,
absolutely.
laughing.
Again, this is a general who was universally
Yes, he
revered.
was. Yes, he
He
was.
did something very stupid and something that I'm sure he regrets. He pled guilty. That wasn't the case with Hillary Clinton.
No, she is
kept
not.
lying
because
and
she's not
covering
accused
up.
of any crime, unlike David Petraeus, who was accused of a crime.
But the facts certainly belie that.
Why are you
know,
smiling?
I'm just smiling because it seems like the number one key to being an inside guy with Trump is having cheated on your wife or having had multiple affairs. I mean, to me, that's kind of where it's going right now, which means that Mitt Romney, who has been a faithful and good husband for many years, is probably just out of the running altogether.
Let's talk about him. For those who don't know, you ran against him, or he ran against you, or whatever, for governor not so long ago. We saw what Kellyanne Conway said, trashing Mitt Romney. Here's what Joe Scarborough, a former Republican member of Congress, tweeted about this. Giuliani and Conway are trying to intimidate the president-elect. How weak do they think he is? Their lack of discretion is embarrassing. Now all world leaders will be watching to see if President Trump can be bullied by his own staff. David Axelrod, who admittedly worked for Obama, but has been really fair, I think, in his commentary in this campaign. I have never, ever, in capital letters, seen any aide to a president of the United States or president-elect publicly try and box the boss in like this. Extraordinary. So my take on this is one of two things. That these guys are totally right, or Donald Trump is orchestrating the whole thing because his goal is to humiliate the man who attempted to humiliate him during the campaign.
That could be true, but this is not the first time that Kellyanne Conway has attempted to box in Donald Trump.
What's another one?
There were other times where she was admonishing him to act presidential, to stop tweeting. I mean, you saw on more than one occasion her being interviewed and very tactfully reminding her candidate that he needed to stay on message.
To this level.
I don't think it rises to
what
this message.
What do you think is going
also.
on here?
Yeah, I think one of the options is that Donald Trump is going through the motions here, not to humiliate him, but create the perception that he wants to unite the Republican Party, because there is a big base.
At the same time that he humiliates him.
Well, perhaps it's in the eye of the beholder, but here's the thing. He may offer him a position other than Secretary of State, and then Romney gets a chance to turn it down.
Or Kellyanne Conway is mad that she's getting boxed out. And that was the other thing that they said on the Scarborough show today, is that Kellyanne Conway is not at the table, and maybe she is, lashing out right now as well.
Can we talk about other appointments for a second? A lot of focus has been on Steve Bannon and Jeff Sessions for Attorney General. The Chief Domestic Advisor, Ken Blackwell, believes in gay conversion therapy. I'm sure you know. The Education Secretary nominee,
by the way, a former treasurer, Ken
has
Blackwell.
no experience in public schools. Her kids didn't go to public school. She has never had anything to do with public schools. She sent her kids to a private Christian school. She's worked in the Christian reform movement there. Are these not problems for your guys'
Donald Trump will be judged on the success or failure of his administration. And those individuals may not be the typical individuals that are chosen over the last 8 years to serve in those positions.
Therapy?
He is bringing in people to do what he believes is his direction. Now, did people say things that were 10, 20 years ago? I don't know when
This
Ken
was not
Blackwell
close
said
to
that.
10 or 20 years ago.
Then I think that's
you
problematic.
Think, problem. Fine. The last thing with you.
Not
Speaking
typical, not qualified. Those are almost like synonyms in this case.
Speaking of leaders and teams, Nancy Pelosi tomorrow is running for re-election as the leader of the Democrats. During the Pelosi-Obama years, 63 House seats have been lost. Virtually nobody, even in the Democratic Party, thinks the messaging was right to those working class, mostly white Americans that put Trump over the top. Should Nancy Pelosi be reelected, or is her time come and gone? And by the way, the vast majority of women Democrats in the House are rallying around her, not unlike how they rallied around Hillary Clinton because of her gender. They've been open about that. Is that not a problem?
I don't think that it's just gender. I think that people do believe that Nancy Pelosi is a strong leader within the legislative caucus.
They've mentioned that a lot of them have mentioned it's because she's a woman.
And, well, maybe so, but I think that she's been a strong leader there. But the messaging and what the Democrats are saying in the election has an awful lot to do with the fact that I think that Democrats are ahead of where the demographics in this country are going. We have actually not been speaking to white, working class people. We have been speaking to perhaps the next generation of political strength. We have to, I think, do a better job, and that has to go across the board.
Should she be the leader that lost Senate seats?
Yes, I do.
She should be the leader.
Yes, I do. Yes,
even though they've lost on every level, governorships, everything.
Because a lot of what has happened is on the local level. There has been gerrymandering, and a lot of those seats, it's made it more difficult.
Fair enough. Nice to see you.
Thanks.
Shannon, be well, Joe.
Nice to see you.